It's the top story this morning. If you're just joining us here on the Breakfast Club, it's 7:19 at NextSportStar, and thanks very much for doing that. It is a very, very sad story that's broke out of Pretoria in South Africa, where the Blade Runner, Oscar Pistorius, has either tragically or maybe not it was tragically anyways, but whether it's an accident or whether it was deliberate, it seems to be an accident from everything we can see. We'll have to wait and find out. I believe there's going to be a press conference held this afternoon.
Yeah.
But his girlfriend, and her name is Reena Steenkamp, and Reena Steenkamp, and he shot her in the 3 or 4 times, because the word that they're putting out is he could well have mistaken her for a burglar trying to break into his house, and in the wee hours.
And if that's the case, he's getting off.
And the other thing is, the other side of the story is that perhaps she was trying to sneak in to surprise him on Valentine's Day. No. There's conflicting issues coming out that the couple had been arguing earlier on in the evening. There are others who are saying they know what the situation is. They feel terrible for the tragedy that has occurred. But my point here at the end of the day, and you know, Bill, there was a rugby player in 2004 in South Africa. I don't know if you know this story or not. And I can't pronounce his name, so I won't try. So don't, whatever. But he shot and killed his 19-year-old daughter.
I vaguely recall that.
It was 2:00 in the morning, and she snuck out. She wanted to take Daddy's car and go for a run with her girlfriends or whatever it was. I mean, it was just a teenage thing. He thought someone was stealing his car, so out he went onto the front veranda with his 9mm pistol and started to unload on what it turned out to be his daughter.
Yeah.
And of course, they, as teenage kids and parents do, there's always some issues going on. But my point
is he out yet?
No. I don't know. I hope not. But the fact of the matter is, it's not just that. It's we live in a society. I believe the balance is right here in Canada, Bill. And I've worked in the judicial system for 7 years, as I mentioned earlier on. And the fact of the matter is, I think that the United States is way too far as the gun situation there is concerned on one hand. I think Britain, on the other hand, where I've lived and born and all the rest of it, is way too far on the other side, because coppers just don't carry guns there at all. They have to be issued guns if there's an armed robbery situation. But it does there's a sort of an unwritten agreement, but too often in this society now, criminals can take advantage of the fact that the coppers don't have one, and then there's a huge hue and cry. In Canada, we're kind of in between. We don't have as such a gun-toting society.
We're half pregnant.
Yeah, we are on this. But in South Africa is like Texas. Certainly in certain areas of South Africa,
of course
it's like Texas.
It's lawless.
And of course, they've had all through the whole upheaval they've gone through, and apartheid and the whole thing. These guys, and he lives in a gated community, which it's hard to believe that anyone could break into the gated community they live in. That's why they live there. But they're still armed to the teeth, and they're not hesitant like you and I would be. Let me just ask you this. Like, I have a baseball bat beside my bed. Heaven forbid anything should ever happen to us. But if someone was breaking into my house at night, I still can't imagine me having a gun hid somewhere and going out there and using it and pulling the trigger on it. Can you?
You using a gun? No.
Or you?
No, I've never shot a gun in my life.
Me neither.
I have no intention of ever
Me
doing
neither.
It.
But
no.
That's what I'm saying. That's the way we're put together. But in societies where you grow up with your dad and your granddad and everyone else before you had them, and you've been out there since a little whippersnapper shooting at Coke cans on top of the old fence posts, it's a whole different acceptance level. And this is part of the tragedy of it. These 2 incidents that we just talked about right now, for me, I'm saddened by all this. I hope the girl's dead. You know me and always being the gullible one. We've talked about this many times between you and I. But I'm thinking this guy's sitting here absolutely devastated. If it is the case, think of his life as it is. He's triumphed over being a double amputee. He was born without the fibula bones in his legs. He has had to compensate since he was born. He's overcome all of that. Often guys who have that have got severe problems as far as what's going on up here is concerned, because they've got to cope with the fact that their life is so difficult. Look, he's become an Olympic athlete. And now if he suffered through all that, he's overcome it. And if he has made an accident, it is an accident, and he shot and killed the girl that he loves, I can only imagine how he's feeling right now. I'm hoping that this turns out to be that, not something a lot worse. And it seems to me the weight of the evidence, just from looking at the story at first blush, is for me that would be the case.
Boy, I'll tell you, I would want you on my any time I need a jury.
Bloody right.
You are so. Oh, they're good people. It's just bleeding hearts. Look, someone's dead here because he shot her. End of story. Now you got to decide whether what he thought it might be justifiable in a sad way if he thought she was breaking in or any of those issues. But the fact of the matter is, in my opinion anyways, he shot the gun. And if he was close enough to see who it was, I can't imagine a situation where he didn't know who it was.
Bill,
can't see it. It's his girlfriend.
think this through for a second. He's sitting in his bed at the wee small hours of the morning.
I understand.
He has no legs. He can't.
What does that have to do with shooting
because
the gun?
he can't exactly get up and get away from whoever's coming into his house.
Well, again,
and they got guns. The bad guys have got guns. What do you? I mean, I understand completely. Not to be insensitive
hang on a second?
about it.
I've got my violin in the car. Let me go and get it. Do you mind?
Well, that's the truth of the matter.
Look, that may well be true. I will only say this. The police in South Africa have charged him with murder. They don't do that if your scenario is what they thought had happened. Agreed?
They've opened a murder case.
Well, anyway.
Yeah. You're right. He's been charged with murder.
That's all I'm saying. We don't know what the story is.
And what confuses me, clouds the issue, is that the cops actually offered the information. She said, we don't comment on this. We don't usually give names. But I will say, since he was in the house and has gotten out there, that there have been incidents in the house before. And when they offer that information, obviously when they're laying the murder charge, they're building it on their side.
All I'm saying is that it's way too early in this situation to determine one way or the other what happened here. It's a sad story, as you say. It's tragic. It's absolutely tragic. This woman was a model for Avon. She was a law, I believe, either a law student or had a law degree. I mean, she's a tremendous loss to all of us in her death, and it really is a sad story. Don't know any more about that except that she's dead and he shot her. And I think, what tends to happen is we immediately go, well, it's this, it's that. And I'm not trying to lay anything on you.
Yeah. No, I understand.
But I want to know what happened before I start thinking yes, no, or the other thing. All I know at this point is he shot her. And if he hadn't shot her, she'd be alive. I think, we can take that to the bank, can we not?
I will say that her spokesperson, i.e. her agent, has come out and said they did have a good and loving relationship. Nobody actually knows what happened. And I will also tell you that Pistorius' house is in the heart of a large estate surrounded by a 3-meter-high stone wall. That is 10 feet high, topped with an electric wire fence. This is the type of community this guy was living in. So, it's difficult to imagine an intruder entering the community.
Until we find out the story, I don't want to. I really don't want. It's not fair to anybody.
No. Anyways, we got lots of.